This is us thanking you.
Okay, so this is the play. Yay! The play that took a decade. Actually, it took longer. It took longer. I don't want to say how much longer because I'm embarrassed. And you see, I have it all in huge letters because I should have done this play 20 years ago when I could see. And now I'm older. I'm older and can't see as well. So I had to make the initial script in huge, huge letters. And so that makes it very, very long. And also, I'm really mad at the playwright because she wrote this very long. And now I have to memorize this. And I'm going to have a talk with her.
When we started, well, I had nothing. I didn't know. I had the script. I had me. I had Jim, the director, who I knew from my days of early acting before I got into Juilliard. And I had Aubin, my dear friend and great actress and writer and acting coach. And that's like it. And so I had no idea how we would gather a crew. But being from Chicago, Jim Ortlieb, our director, who can do anything and knows everybody everywhere, reached out and somehow we gathered this amazing crew. So along the way in our rehearsals, we're doing Zoom rehearsals with our incredibly talented tech team. So lighting, sound, set, everybody coming together to do a reading. So we start reading through the play. We've had to do 4 of them because we have to break the parts up a bit. So we read, we stop, everybody chimes in, like the lighting, the sound will say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's so exciting to be surrounded by these hugely talented people that are going to bring this story to life.
So today is supposed to be, finally, after our long campaign, the first day of our in-person rehearsals. And I've been sick. Yay! So I actually had a mobile IV people come and infuse me with vitamins today. So I hope I make it through our first rehearsal. Yeah, okay. This is the beginning. Whoa.
Yeah, so we ended up getting a rehearsal space from Carrie Scott, who is an actor and a acting teacher who rented us his space. We still paid a bit, but we could only then have in-person rehearsals 1 week of the month, which meant 1 week in June, 1 week in July, 1 week in August. We did also rent a little rehearsal space from a lovely couple named Verna and Bob, who were in Escondido, and Carrie's space was downtown San Diego. So Jim, our director, drove down on Mondays all the way from LA, picked me up, and we went to rehearse as long as we possibly could on those days. And the show being an hour and a half, I was only on Zoom, rehearsing with my friend Rachel Parker, who agreed to go on Zoom with me on her late nights in Chicago. So we were 2 hours time difference, and run lines with me like crazy. Also, my wonderful acting coach, Aubin Philibom, who also ran lines with me. And then Jim and I went on some rehearsals on Zoom, but by the time we got in person, we really needed to have the show on its feet. So we're going to tape today, and Jim is setting up for this in rehearsal.
I'm the audio-visual specialist today.
And director.
And director. Every now and then.
We're going to try. No. He's seeing now what he didn't notice before. This is the moment, the snapshot. His best self resting upon my cheek, and he says,
You really are so beautiful.
well, yes, because my face is right by his cock. Proximity. The closer my face is to a man's penis, the more beautiful I get. I consider getting headshots taken like this. This is Kolya, and he's not nervous about lines or anything. I just wanted to say too, a lot of people, which is really nice, are thinking that I'm scared because of the topic, or I was a little scared about coming out with the topic, but also that's not the reason I'm nervous. I'm nervous because I wrote too many lines. No, not too many, exactly the right number, but it's 90 minutes, and I'm more scared that I'm going to forget on stage. And it's been a long time since I've been on stage, but also I've never ever done 90 minutes by myself on stage alone. Okay, the good news is we're running the show in rehearsal. We're running it, and I'm building some stamina. It's long, not that long, but long. The not good news is we only have five rehearsal days left for San Diego before Jim leaves for Chicago, and the crew is in Chicago, and then I'm in private, acting sessions with Aubin and my friend Rachel, who helps me with lines, and that's it. And then we're going to be in Chicago. So in Chicago, once we got there, we had to rent a place to stay, obviously. So Aubin and I shared a 2-bedroom Airbnb together. It was run by these two very incredibly wonderful men that made their apartment very space age. So, for instance, everything that we touched was incredibly digital. Like the stove, there was this just plain nothing on it, and you had to tap in buttons and slide your finger along for it to sort of hook up, and you don't know which burner is going to go, and the dryer and the washer were, it was like living in a Jetsons house. One day we got home on a break, and she said, I'm going to take a little nap, and I said I'd like to make an egg, and I should be able to make an egg, but she said, why don't you wait for me and I'll make the egg. And I thought, well, okay, but I can also make the egg. I mean, I'm a grown woman, I can make an egg. So I put the frying pan on what was the stovetop, I suppose, and pressed it on, and then turned my back for maybe 35 seconds, and the entire pan was on fire, and the kitchen was smoked out, and we were completely smoked out of the apartment. Of course, Aubin was none too pleased with me. We opened every window and prayed that the host wouldn't know, because they lived right next door. And then, of course, I offered to pay for this pan that went from this gorgeous silver, brand new color to black and charred. So we had little adventures of me perhaps burning down houses and so forth. Luckily, we didn't burn down the show. Once we got to the theater, it was like a family, and people just devoted themselves, their artistic selves, to this project. They loved the play, I believe. It felt like they did, and I just felt so surrounded by artistic love and creativity, and they put their entire own visions into what the show should feel like and look like. And I really felt held by these wonderful people. Eli, they were there day and night at the theater. Even after we opened, Eli and Michael would come back to the show to make sure that the projections were working, or to troubleshoot, which they had to do a couple times because our first run was a little bit off sometimes. A light didn't work, a projection didn't go on, but Eli and Michael came running back, or Dwight or Krina, and Helena stayed with us the entire time. So in the middle of our what should have been a smooth rehearsal period, we had a little issue where our stage manager unfortunately had to leave the show, and so we had to scramble at the last moment, and although she had a million things to do, and although she was never a stage manager before, Aubin Philipbaum, my acting coach, my friend, and my fellow producer, had to learn how to be a stage manager in a very short time, like less than a week. So she had to abandon the other things she was doing, even though she didn't abandon the other things she was doing, but she had to sort of back burner them for a second, jump in with Michael and Dwight and Katrina and Eli and, our lighting and projectionists, and sit with them and Warren, the sound man, while they were writing cues. She had to learn to write cues and to interpret them and to call them and then work them on the board. And stage managers go to school for this, and she just learned it on the fly. And so even though she had to do that, and even though we lost our original stage manager, I was so grateful, because being on stage alone, the only person I have with me is the person in the booth. And in this case, it was Aubin and Warren, the sound person. And so it was this huge upheaval. Plus, we had to readjust payments and salaries, and we ended up with last minute expenses that were much higher than we thought. And a couple of our wonderful patrons of the show leaped back in and gave towards the show so we could afford that. So it was really a show of miracles, of people just opening their hearts to this story. It's amazing. So the show went pretty well. Most of the performance. Tuesday was opening, and I was a bit nervous. So I thought Wednesday was a good show, and I had a lot of people there that flew in from everywhere, which was really lovely. And we had a lovely after show get together. Because the show was so long, and because we were in the middle of the end of COVID, and because I didn't want to get sick because I had no understudy, I couldn't really fraternize. I couldn't really talk to a lot of people after the show for very long. So we kind of cut it to an hour, and then I went home and went to bed. But that hour or so with people who came in, friends of mine I haven't seen in decades, friends of mine I haven't seen in years, friends of mine who I had never met in person but knew on Facebook. It was astounding, and I think one of the most important messages for me about the show was the people we hold in our hearts for so long, and the way that we hold each other's dreams. It was astonishing and meant so much, and changed the way I felt about artistic projects. So to those people who came those huge distances just to be with me, it meant more than anything in the world, more than even doing this show. It meant everything. So I want to thank you for that. So where we're at now is we are working on editing this film. The group 5x12 that we hired to shoot it and edit it is working on that and the promo. I don't know what's next. I'm hoping maybe to get it to a theater in LA or New York or London. And I'm hoping to work with somebody to change it into a limited series write-up, but I don't really know how to do that myself. So it might be either I do it myself this year, or I find a good partner who knows how to do that. But for now, we're just waiting for the film. And I'll write the sequels to the books, and that will be done, and then enjoy that process, I hope, and maybe the people who like the books will be happy that there's more. So anyway, that's it for now.